Hey guys, and welcome back to another Cultured Boys discussion. I'm Pepe, and I'm joined by Nathan. And today we're back doing what we love. Well, we always do what we love anyway, but it's a manga review. And today, yeah, there we go. Yeah, there's a cheers from the audience right there.
Thank you, audience.
That's you. You're the audience.
Thank you, me.
Right. Right. As you can guess, no, I was about to say this is Manzai, but this is not Manzai. We're amateurs. But related to what we're doing today, we're going to be talking about two series. We're going to be talking about the new comedy stand-up mangas that are in Jump and Jump Plus. Which one is this one in? Well, anyway, two series. We're going to be talking about two series, Akane Banashi and Shoten, which are both kind of like stand-up manga. Do you want to say stand-up manga?
I would say comedy. One is definitely stand-up comedy. One is comedy in a... I don't want to say hard to explain, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
But anyway, both of these focus on comedy entertainment rather than your typical like Bobo or Psyche, which are telling a comedy story. So,
Yes.
But yeah, let's just jump into it with our first series, Akane Banashi. So, do you want to give us a little lowdown, Nathan, with this?
Sure. So Akane Banashi is about a girl called Akane who is really into Rakugo. It's a form of storytelling where the Rakugoka, the person who is performing the story, is sat on a cushion and everything is expressed through their words and their body. So it's basically like acting, but you're like stuck in one spot. It's very like minimalist, so it's very reliant on the actual person's acting skills, like how you would represent different characters, change your voice, all that kind of thing. Basically revolves around how Akane wants to be a Rakugoka because her dad was one and she was like enamored with her dad telling these stories, and she would practice by watching him like practice through an open door. Her dad was trying to take an exam at his school, the Arakawa school, to become like the highest level of Rakugo. Then I guess the leader of the Arakawa school, or like the most senior sensei there, Ishio Arakawa, basically expels every person at that exam. And then Akane takes it upon herself to get taught by her dad's sensei, Shiguma Arakawa, to become a Rakugoka. And the story is basically that, how she is learning Rakugo and how she'll improve and try to be the best Rakugoka there ever was.
Mm-hmm. Yes. To do comedy is her real test. To learn it is, of course. Anyway, but yeah, this is a new series in Jump. Like it's got 9 chapters out at the time of this recording.
Yes.
And the thing is with that first chapter as well is that it kind of sets up the series perfectly. Like this is like a lot of the backstory in the first one, and like from from chapter 2 onwards, it's more of like her story and how she develops as a Rakugoka. Is that how
Yes.
it sounds?
Yes. Rakugoka. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like it's one of those ones that when this chapter first came out, because I read it when it first got released in Jump, and I was like, I wasn't expecting. I thought I'd be you get like a small intro to her character. You see that she has talent for Rakugo, but like you never see it like obviously fully developed sort of thing. It's more focused on her dad's side of the story. But
Yeah.
like at the end, that's where you see her step into basically the Rakugo world, and like and from chapter 2 onwards, that's where you actually see her style, see how she develops, and even now in the like later chapters they're out right now, 7 and 8, 9. There it's kind of like her going through like a little training arc, like learning like how to like finesse her skills in Rakugo.
Yeah. Unlike Pepe, I didn't actually read it when it first came out. I read it all, I think, like last week as of time recording. Like, I read it all in one go from 1 to 9. I remember Pepe telling me that it was strange. Like, he didn't quite get everything, but that he would continue just to give it a go, right? I kind of understand what you meant. Like, had I not read it all in one go like that, I also wouldn't have got it. Because I guess in the West, it's kind of like outside of just normal acting, right? We don't really have that sort of concept of Rakugo, like storytelling in that way anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
so
absolutely not. Yeah, it's a very different form of comedy that anyone in the West would be used to.
yeah, and it's hard to explain it because, again, from the West, we're just sort of like, I mean, I don't get why it's funny. It's just someone
Yeah.
like sat there and like telling a story and they're acting, right? But then
hmm
I guess the thought in the West is, why wouldn't you just be acting, like a stage play or something? It,
Yeah.
but it is a stage play in a sense.
It's very reliant on your storytelling aspects of it. It's how your quality is as a performer and a storyteller.
Yeah,
Because especially within this series as well, like they do it really well. Like right now, I'm not exactly going to call myself a Rakugo like pro just from reading this one manga, but they do their best to like sort of like bring you up to speed on what Rakugo actually is.
yeah, and they actually do try to make each Rakugoka like different. Like
Yeah.
each like so far the characters we've seen, they've got different qualities that someone else doesn't have.
Mm.
Whilst Akane is very expressive and good at like changing her mannerisms to really put across the other characters. Like her acting skills are really great. Like
Mm.
one of the other characters, name escapes me right now, um, who is a super rising star at the moment, and essentially for now, like her rival, or
Yeah.
she's sort of set as her rival. That person is really good at like singing and doing seductive female characters, even though
Yeah.
he's male. Like, so it's like they do say that like the Rakugokas have different qualities to them, and they try their best to make you, like Pepe said, like understand Rakugo as a whole, whilst also individualizing characters.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, like in a manga in general, and it's even harder to get across in a translation for a
Yeah,
series. Like this is the thing. Like you have to give props to the translation team at, doing the Shueisha Plus app, because realistically, this is a hard one to get across, especially if there's certain storytelling as well.
exactly. Like it's a concept we don't even really have, so you have to explain that. And there's the cultural differences. In one of the chapters, it's like they explain that there's different stories depending on your level, but like all the stories were written from like the Middle Ages, because
Yeah.
Rakugo is for like the average person, but all those people back then were like fishermen, farmers, like
Mm. Merchants and stuff it's a very interesting way of trying to get that across.
yeah. So even if we did hear these stories, we the translation team would have such a hard time trying to make that understandable to us, because it's a lifestyle that no one in the West would have really lived exactly the same, because
No.
they're not a Japanese fisherman, a Japanese farmer, a Japanese merchant, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, like going into this, like imagine reading this as your first manga. Like this would be like
oh,
if you had no insight into Japan whatsoever, and you just picked up this one. Like, oh, okay, I'll give this a shot. I'd reckon it'd be a tough one to get into.
it'd be a very tough sell.
Yeah. But I do like the idea of it. I think it's a very unique idea that we haven't really seen before. And it's quite funny how this and Shoha Shoten, it kind of like they're both talk like going for that entertainment angle, and it's like the
Yeah,
lifestyle of a comedian or storyteller. And it's interesting to see this perspective of a manga. It's nothing I kind of put it down similarly to something like Bakuman, if
yeah,
anyone's read that before. Like, yeah, I know you and I both have, Nathan. It's like basically like the behind the scenes of writing a manga, whereas like this is like the behind the scenes of doing like
Manzai
becoming a
or
performer.
Rakugo.
Yeah, like the whole like soul like being a performer, what it takes to be a performer. And like I love like what I really like the idea of is the mangaka and like the artists, all those like just doing the research into these sort of things and what it takes to be like in this profession.
We've said it before, I'm pretty sure in a previous episode, that like weirdly these sort of like outside of the conventional box of manga themes, that these kind of manga can do really well. They are actually really interesting if you give them a chance, because like you'll learn about something you you had no idea existed.
Mm,
Or
exactly.
like in the example of Bakuman, like you know what a manga is, you know someone draws it and someone has to write up the, someone writes the story. Sometimes that person is the same as the artist, sometimes it isn't. But like you don't know much more than that. And like you
Mm-hmm.
learn so much about how these things are produced.
Mm.
So that's why like I'm kind of like Pepper, I'm actually really glad that both of these exist right now cuz Japanese comedy is just something I never understood. And I'm kind
Same
of
here.
hoping,
Completely the same.
I guess both of us are kind of hoping that by reading these, we get a little more understanding for this enigma that is Japanese comedy.
Mm. They give you a lot of information about it as well. It's not like you're just thrown into the deep end like expecting to know what Rakugo or Manzai is.
Yeah,
It is like they do clue you up really well in it, and like so you can get into it quite easily. I can kind of see this going quite far as well, just because it is a very unique style of manga.
I hope it goes far because
Yeah.
I also like that, like Pepe said about Akane Banashi, that she had a small training section already, but it
Mm.
was really unconventional training.
Yeah.
But it also made so much logical sense at the same time after it happened. Do you know what I mean? Because
100%. Yeah.
like I don't I don't want to spoil it because there's like very few chapters. So go out and read it, please.
Mm-hmm.
But Pepe, you know what I'm saying? Like you just when she gets sent for her training, you're like, what? Why there? I kind of get it, but like, why?
It kind of reminds me of the Karate Kid kind of style of training. You know, like where he's in, oh, do wax the windows, like
Yeah, I mean,
wax on,
or
wax off
even
kind of thing. Yeah,
early Dragon Ball where Goku and Krillin train with Master Roshi, and he's like, "We're delivering milk,"
yeah,
and they're like, "Why? Just deliver the milk. We're plowing the fields." Like those kind of weird training,
yeah.
like styles. I kind of like that. It,
Mm-hmm.
it
It,
it
it, it
really
catches you off guard. It really does catch you off guard. And you're like, and then you see the results of it afterwards. That's like you see the fruits of the labor.
yeah, like,
Like,
and
well,
then when everything clicks and you're like, "Oh my god, that was so clever."
yeah.
Like
Mm.
I would never have thought of that personally.
Yeah. With martial arts sort of mangas, that kind like you kind of like lend that. You can kind of see how it connects, but it's like with the Akane Banashi. Obviously, you're not exactly clued up about the profession itself. So
Yeah,
seeing their methods of training, you're like, how does this actually help? And then it actually like, it's something that you can't really expect to like go like you don't like you're not like coming through being like, oh, I knew that was gonna happen. You're like, oh, okay, that's the reason why they did this. This like this through this thing, and like all these see it sort of means. It makes sense, as Nathan said. It does make sense, and I like it. I think it's like it's an interesting way of telling the story. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they in the chapters where she's training, they do try to explain, and it's not so much that you don't understand how she'll learn. It's just it's sort of like, oh, I thought she was going to do something more conventional,
Mm.
like go and to a master and sit, and learn
Yeah.
whilst watching, or like just go and watch a bunch of Rakugo and try and figure it out kind of thing. But it's not so cut and dry like that, like
Mm.
in every other shonen, I guess, because all the other shonen are battle, so you just expect to see like montages of them like
Mm.
training and fighting and lifting heavy things and whatever, like all the training montages you've always seen. But I have I really do have really really high hopes for Akane Banashi. Like I've really been enjoying it, even though I don't understand it. Like
That is 100% my thoughts as well. Like, I just love the unique storytelling of this because this is a thing that's happening right now. Like, we always discuss it about Jump in these episodes, and I think a common theme that always comes up with us is that Jump is always throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And like right now, this is so unique compared to like say something like a shonen manga.
yeah,
Like there's like this battle, like you always fall into those tropes. Whereas this one doesn't feel as tropey at all. The tropes are very minimal in this. If I were to actually try and find any,
yeah, I can't find
um,
any.
the only one that I can probably say is probably about Akane's past and how like her dad's an inspiration. But that's just character. Like you need to have a character's motivation, At the end of the day, we can't nitpick those sort of things.
I
don't
think I
believe.
could only think of one, and that's that she's got the senpais, and they're
Oh
all
yeah.
kind of tropey in that
Yeah.
sense. Like,
hmm
because she's got the serious one that's helping her. She's got the one that doesn't want to be responsible because there's too much pressure, and then she's got the one that just doesn't care. Like
Yeah.
her senpais in the Arakawa school are very tropey.
Yeah, okay, they are. I completely forgot about them as well. But yeah, we've only seen one senpai. Well, that's the thing. Like we've only like one of the senpais. I can't remember his name right now. He's the one that's kind of helping Akane train a little bit.
Yeah,
But like we haven't actually seen his Rakugo in action yet, and it's only like at the end of chapter 9. He's seen her perform, seen the fruits of her labor after the training, and he's like, well, now I have to bring out the big guns as well. So in the next chapter, we're gonna see his style of Rakugo, and I'm very excited to see
yeah,
that.
same. Like, because he's again, like we said, he's a kind of tropey because he's like the serious senpai,
Mm,
the one who's
yeah.
like really, really into his craft and really, really into helping her get better at what she does.
Mm,
And I just, I don't have any frame of reference for what his style could be because, like, again, like Akane's really expressive, and the other guy and all the others are like, got these other qualities, and I'm like, he's just a straight man. Like, what is he gonna do?
But that's the thing because he's so straight. I'm really looking forward to see like something off the cuff, like something you wouldn't ever expect from him. Like because obviously he's a performer and an actor, so
Yeah,
he's gonna bring like some mad skills. I reckon. Like
I hope so. Like,
yeah.
one thing I also wanted to mention though is
hmm
for the art, the normal
Yeah.
art style is really good already. But
Yeah.
sometimes when they're performing the stories and then they go into that traditional art
Oh
style, I
yeah.
really like that. It
I
even
love that.
looks like
Yeah.
a like traditional brush. Oh man, it looks so good.
It's such a good way to like differentiate the current like what's going on in the scene and the storytelling as well.
I
Like
mean, my favorite frames are the ones that have like Akane or one of the characters doing the same pose. And it's like the
mhm.
juxtaposition of the normal art style and the traditional art style. I love those frames.
Yeah, it's so good. Like seeing like, the art really does lend itself, and it's worth saying as well that the artist for this manga they have been serialized in Weekly Jump before for a is a football manga. I think it's called Ole Galaza. I think it only lasted 14 chapters, and it is about a guy who absolutely loves taekwondo but gets kicked out from his class and joins a football team. But it only lasted 14 chapters, and I think it was one of those ones where like it just didn't land, like in Jump, like it just didn't smack whatsoever.
Fair.
But I guess because it's falling into that whole sports manga, and realistically, I think what was it between 2016 and 2017, you did have series like Haikyuu and Jump, and like some. I'm pretty sure there might have been some other sports manga there as well. Um,
I probably
uh,
read them and forgot them already.
exactly. That's the thing. There was such a quick turnaround on sports manga and Jump at the time, and probably like still at this point, I don't think they've like put a proper sport manga in Jump apart from Blue Box right now,
Yeah.
and even then, that's a rom
Blue
com
Box
sport
is, yeah,
manga.
it's not even like a normal sport
Yeah,
manga.
but yeah, I think it's a tough one right now to get those get the eyes on that right now in Jump. But again, like I think that's why I think this one's doing so well though. This is why kind of Banashi is doing well. It's because it is a unique selling point,
Yeah.
and it isn't
And
just a
honestly,
sports manga. It isn't just a shonen. It is like a lifestyle kind of one.
Moe Takamasa's art, oh, so
Mm,
good in this. So
really.
good. Like, the characters, okay, some of them look kind of generic, but I guess
Mhm.
that's on purpose.
It's a tough one to sell. Like with if you're making a character that's because this is set in the real world at the end of the day, and if you put someone that's very over the top looking in it, it
Yeah.
kind of takes away from the realism of the series a bit as well. I'd say.
Yeah.
Like so you have to like it's not good. You have to sort of downplay those like key like over the top characteristics, I guess. But I don't know. I think is the art like lends it like really
Yeah,
well. I think like
and that's also not to downplay the writing of Suenaga Yuki. Like this team are doing some great work right now. I hope they get the chance to continue.
yeah. You know what? I feel like they actually both worked on the series together before, but it was only a one shot
Oh,
that got
okay.
released last year. So I think the probably like the reception from that. I don't know what the one shot is about. Unfortunately, I didn't. I can't remember the name of the series, and I don't actually know what it's about. But I know they have worked on something before. It's been in Jump, um, just one chapter. But maybe like that got such a good reception that they've. I don't know. Jump editors thought like it's good to see this, and maybe we can actually like use this Perry again to come up with a new story or something. But yeah, fantastic.
I hope that's the case because
Mm.
again, like it was some good stuff. It's
Yeah.
I don't know what I said was it's good stuff, right?
Yeah,
Like
it
that
is
sounds
good
like
stuff.
that sounds like I don't know. It sounds like I'm trying to throw some shade or I'm trying to predict something that I don't want to happen. It's good
Yeah,
stuff. It's a recommendation for definite. It's again, it's a hard sell. You gotta kind of go in with I don't want to say no expectations, but you know what I mean. Like you gotta go in understanding that you're not gonna know anything.
yeah. Like, bear in mind, you probably will have to be like, you have to like really think about what Rakugo is, and like, if you have no idea about it, this series will help you along with it.
Yeah,
But like, like it wouldn't help to do some outside knowledge as well, like looking into it, because I don't know if you ever like seen them about Nathan, but in London right now, I've always seen these flyers, mainly as at Hyper Japan, the convention that was going on around like a while ago. But there's actually a Rakugo entertainer that is around London. It's called Katsura Sunshine. I don't know if you've ever heard of
I've
him at
never
all.
seen that.
So he's actually an English Rakugo performer.
Oh,
Well, he
that's
speaks
cool.
English, but he's American. But he spent time in Japan, like, and like it's the thing is, I read Akane Banashi, and I kind of wanted to learn a bit more about Rakugo, and I knew about this entertainer. So I was like, I'll do a little bit of research. I'll watch one of his videos, see if I can get like a bit more of an insight into what it is, and like I think I understand it a bit more. But
Okay.
it's yeah, it's worth checking out what Rakugo is outside of this manga as well, just to educate yourself a little bit more as well. Not, that sounds really sly. Just educate yourself, but learn like brush up on the
On the
styles.
back of that though, I was just thinking, if there's anyone out there who has like experience, like they already knew what Rakugo was. Like, I wonder what they think of this. Do you know what I mean? Like, because in that sense, you've just given an example of a real life Rakugoka, right?
Yeah,
American who went to Japan and does Rakugo. That's cool. So I wonder what people who actually know about Rakugo think of this. You know, like that would be interesting. I don't know how I'd find that out, but you know,
I think it. Like, I reckon, like for creating this kind of series, you do want to lend some realism to it. So I imagine they probably did do their research and probably talk to like actual Rakugoka. You'd hope they would have, like when creating this series, like to give that sense of realism. But who knows? I'm not exactly sure what a storyteller's way of creating a story is through this sort of thing. But that's general the means of it, isn't it? You talk to
yeah,
someone within this profession, write about what you know at the end of the day,
exactly.
or learn about it. So, but yeah, 100% agree with Nathan. I'd recommend this a lot. It's a very good read.
Yeah, and it's got so much more to go as well. So look forward to that, like we do. But we still have one more series to talk about, and this one is basically what sparked the idea for this whole episode. Pepe was really into this and told me to go and read this pretty much as soon as he finished the first chapter. So I'll let you take it away, Pepe.
So, Shoten is basically the story of this one kid called Azemashi, who like you get like a little bit of his past, like he's really into his comedy. Basically, he's good at writing jokes, and he's every week he submits like a joke to this show. Is it a radio show or a TV show
I
or
think it's
something?
a TV show. It's basically
Yeah.
like he submits a quick joke. I think it's normally like a one liner or something.
It's a one night, yeah, because like they ask like, oh, what was it? You've been sentenced to a life sentence in prison. What have you been sentenced for? And he submits puns and like punchlines to this show, and basically he's famous on this show, like on the undercover alias of everyday
Shijimi.
Shijimi. Yes, so I pronounced it wrong the whole time. I thought it was everyday Shimji for the longest, but I only realized today it's pronounced that way. But
Yeah,
he's famous on this show because he's submitted so many of
and
these
he basically wins every
answers.
time.
Exactly, he wins every time. So he's famous for this, and but the problem is he's got horrendous stage fright. So like even this show has contacted him from the email saying, "Hey, we'd love for you to actually come onto this TV show, and we'd love to actually meet you." But then he declines just because he has this horrible stage fright. But fast forward a little bit, the school he's at, they're putting on a like school festival kind of thing, and there's a stand up stage and someone submits a form like Azemachi's I hope I pronounced that
Azamichi,
right.
but
Azemichi, yeah. Azemichi. What am I thinking? I'm thinking of the train station. Okachimachi. Anyway, Azemichi, he works on the student council, and they get a form through one day. But he about a person who submitted to be in this comedy festival as a Manzai duo, but he hasn't actually completely submitted the form. So Azamichi's goal is like go down there, find this person, like see what's going on. He walks into the classroom, and that's where he meets Taiyo Higashikata. And this guy is dressed in like a full-on costume, like the most bizarre costume ever. And his Azamichi's reaction is like, okay, yeah, it's definitely him over there. That's this guy. Long story short, like basically Higashikata finds out that Azamichi, oh my god, I'm pronouncing it so bad. Apologies. But Azamichi is everyday Shijimi.
Shijimi, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
What is it? Because you win a USB with your joke on it, and someone bumps into him and he drops his like pencil case or something, but for some reason it's just a pencil case filled with these USBs, and for whatever reason he's carrying it around everywhere.
Yeah. And that's how Higashikata finds out about Azamichi's alter ego, if you will. Because like this, he's famous at this point. Everyday Shijimi is like famous on this TV show. So Higashikata finds out, and he's like, "Oh, please make a Manzai duo with me. We'll absolutely smash it. Like your jokes are incredible." But again, Azamichi has stage fright, and he's like, "No, I can't do it. I'll decline." A lot of stuff goes down, and eventually Azamichi agrees to go on stage with him, and they have like he overcomes his stage fright a little bit, but in the weirdest way. And they actually make like an amazing duo. They like perform at the school festival. It's incredible, and then they kind of form a Manzai duo from there on.
Yep.
That's like the first chapter summed up a little bit. Apologies for just stumbling over myself the whole freaking time. Nathan's better at this than I am, so please bear with me with that. But yes, Manzai in manga.
Yeah, it's like we said before, it's interesting because it's another hard to really illustrate. I feel like kind of manga. Like, how do you portray stand-up comedy like that? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Oh god, yeah. It's a tough one because I feel like again, this is the thing with Manzai as well. Like it's very, very different to stand-up comedy in the UK or US. Like it's like
yeah,
and I've always found this with Manzai. I've never really got it. Like I knew about it before I read this manga, unlike Rakugo, who I had to kind of do my research.
it needs to be said. Manzai is like the normal Japanese stand-up comedy. So, like, if you've seen any Japanese stand-up, it was probably Manzai. So, like, I think most people have a small frame of reference. But it's like Pepe said, like, it's just, I don't get it. I feel like that's what everyone says. I don't get it.
Yeah. For anyone that doesn't know what Banzai is, it's basically like two performers on stage. Usually one of them is a straight man, the other one is like the funny one. And that they sort of like it's basically all about bouncing off each other, creating these sketch elements, like again, very much like Rakugo telling a story sometimes.
But the stories are all around misunderstanding and, like, very quick back and forth.
Yeah, puns, like literally throwing any form of comedy that you can out there. Rakugo is very much focused on the storytelling, very traditional, whereas this is very like in your face, throw anything at the wall, like stand up stuff. It can be wacky as fuck. it's wacky as anything.
I feel like that's the closest thing to stand-up comedy that we'd understand about Manzai is that it's about the bit, right?
Yes.
So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's the joke, it's the setup. That's the part you understand, but it's also like really just kind of strange.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of like getting about because I remember when I first read this again, no Manzai, not a massive fan of it, never really understood it. But what really is great about this manga is, in my opinion, the storytelling and the characters that come through with it.
Yeah.
Like I think that this is something that really reminds you of Bakuman as well. Bear in mind as well that the illustrator for this is Takashi Obata.
Yeah, I was about to mention like Obata Sensei, like that their art is just always on point.
Incredible artist, iconic within the whole like manga universe. Like he's done, for those who don't know who he is, he's done Death Note, Bakuman. He's done Hikaru no Go, I believe, as well, which is a Go series. I believe it's Go, but oh, Platinum End as well,
Yeah,
obviously.
like he's their art. Obata-san's art is iconic. Like you would definitely see Showa Shoten and be like, I've seen that somewhere. Those series are where you'll see it.
That's what actually drew me in about it because I saw the art and I was like, this is definitely from the guy that drew Death Note and Bakuman. You can tell instantly about it, and honestly, like the art is incredible in this. Like, the characters' reactions, especially while they're performing the manzai, is is next level.
Oh,
The
they
expressions
are
are
so good.
great.
They are so good.
Yeah, that's why, like, I think even though Azamichi is a very shy character, it lends it even more when he goes from this shy character being on stage and doing these absolutely ridiculous reactions as well. There's this one sketch that what was it that they did? I think it's in chapter 3 or 4, where it's about this this kid that goes to a petting zoo.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
And like where he's going around and every animal ends up biting him, but every time he gets bitten he does this absolutely ridiculous reaction. And
Oh, mate, that's such a good.
again, as a person that doesn't understand manzai at all, I actually really found that funny. Like it's like usually this thing wouldn't translate over that well for Western
I
audiences,
feel
but
like that sketch fit because that was almost like a slapstick kind of thing rather than
yeah,
like stand
absolutely.
up.
Yeah.
But I think
um
slapstick is like a universal kind of comedy. Like everyone kind of understands someone like getting hurt by something.
it's so true. But the thing is with this series as well, like I think these two characters have to overcome a lot as a duo as well. Like they're
Yes.
thrown into situations that they're so far out of their comfort zone. So it's not like, whereas Akane Banashi, you see that
She
Akane has a lot
she
of skill.
basically had like a head start because she was like directly related to the medium. Whereas,
Mm,
like Pepe said, these two they're just people who like comedy and sort of want to do it, and they know some stuff, but it turns out they don't know as much as they think. So I guess it's kind of more relatable in that sense because it's like it's almost as if you are them as well. You're
yeah.
learning as they're learning.
It's because like they clearly have the potential to do comedy. Because it comes out as well that Higashikata is actually a famous actor, like
Yeah.
a child actor, like who's like he had like a really big hit on a TV show, but then he just quit acting. Like I won't go into reasons because technically it's spoilers. But like he quit acting, and that's so it kind of lends it a little bit. You got this person who's has incredible stage fright, but is an amazing writer, like comedy writer.
Yeah, and then you've got someone who is an amazing actor and has a great stage presence, but is terrible at jokes.
Yeah. So like it is like this duo like lend themselves to each other really well. And you kind of see like even though they are great at what they do in their own respective like individualities, when it comes to being on stage and actually performing manzai, you see them progress and like literally they're thrown into the deep end in certain situations doing gigs. You have to know the scene, the comedy scene
It
to actually like
it's
do well in
funny
it.
because I wanted to say this back when we were talking about Akane, but
Mm,
it's basically almost the first issues that they run into are exactly the same. It's
yes.
knowing your audience, right?
Yes,
And
exactly that.
tailoring your style to the people you're performing to. It's so funny that coincidentally both comedy series have the same first issue.
I mean, that's literally it as well. Like, I think when you look at the professions of comedy, like Rakugo and Manzai, especially even stand up, it is always going to be a thing of knowing your audience and knowing
Yeah.
how well to sell your jokes.
And when you're an amateur, you wouldn't have that yet. You know, you wouldn't know how to do that yet because you haven't been on stage, you haven't done it yet. So
Mm.
it makes sense, but it's just also like really funny that coincidentally, like very early on in both, that's both of their problem.
I think it's like it kind of reminds me a little bit of Bakuman again, whereas obviously when I can't remember their name now. They make a duo, don't they?
Yeah.
Um, Either way, yeah, the main characters that they like when they get their first submission in Jump, there's always the thing like knowing your target audience, knowing how to create a story, what like to keep people going, like keep people hooked, and it's a very similar situation within these two mangas. I feel like
Yeah.
it's all about like you said, knowing your audience, knowing what jokes are gonna land, like and obviously within Shoten, there's there's a lot of other duos that are in this competition, like trying to make it big within the Manzai world,
Yeah.
and like you see their performances as well, and you feel like, oh, how Azamichi and Higashikata are gonna compare to these guys? What are they gonna bring up that's actually gonna trump these other duos? And you see other duos' style of comedy as well, and it's really interesting to see like how these things go down.
I will say though, although both series run into the same problem, they dealt with it differently.
Mm.
Whereas Akane needed training, she couldn't figure it out. Azamichi actually knows he has to tailor his jokes to the audience. They just haven't quite figured it out yet. It's interesting that although, you know, you have the same issue, you go about it differently.
It's good. Like I think that's what I like about these two series right now is that yeah, sure they're like within the comedy entertainment world, but they're like the stories are very different from each other.
Yeah.
And it's not like oh I'm reading two series that feel exactly the same. You're like oh okay these two series have differences and like you can appreciate them for what they are individually. The only my only gripe with Shoten is that some of the characters in it do like I know we were saying that it feel a bit tropey and like Akane Banashi. It doesn't fall into too many tropes, but the characters in Showa, like it kind of some of them kind of feel a bit like it it takes out of the realism a little bit.
See, for me, I actually like that some of them are tropey because I feel like it plays more into the comedy aspect. Like the fact that it's the comedy world and it's sort of like, well, yeah, you would get
Yeah,
those types of characters.
yeah. My okay, my like with the characters that are shown early on in the series as well. Um, I think I don't have any problems there, but I the latest chapter of Showa
Yeah, I
is
thought that's where this was gonna go.
there's I won't reveal too much, but there's this one character that is very much like yeah
A despicable person. Like written, they are written perfectly because you're meant to hate him, from what I can gather,
yeah.
and I do absolutely hate this character.
Like the personality, the character design, design of it, like everything about this character, you just hate him.
You would loathe this character, and again, you're probably supposed to. So it's really well written, really well illustrated. Everything's done perfectly because it's
Yeah.
achieved what it's supposed to, but it doesn't mean that you don't hate this guy.
Yeah, and again, like obviously, there's storytelling. You have to have like what was it? Some like a villain at some point.
Yeah,
But this villain that they've introduced right now kind of feels like I don't know. It's like unnecessarily like
it's a bit
camp.
overkill, isn't it? Like,
It's a bit overkill. That's my one problem with it. And realistically, when you had Bakuman, for example, you had over the top characters all the freaking time.
yeah,
Like, so like I can kind of like obviously it's different story writers, so like bear that in mind. But I don't know. That's my only gripe with one of the characters. Like obviously, Azamichi comes up against certain like problems as well. What is it? His dad doesn't see comedy as a proper job either.
yeah, and that's explained as well. But we won't spoil it for you go and read it if you're interested. But there is like a specific reason why his dad is against them being stand-up comedians.
And both of the main characters, Azamichi and Higashikata, both have like backstories as well of why they want to do this.
Yeah.
So again, I won't go into too much detail about it, but yeah, defo check it out if you want to read about that as well. But yeah, like, any other thoughts on this on the show, Nathan?
It's given me a greater understanding of Manzai. I
Yeah.
still don't think I get Manzai like properly. Not like the concept of it, but like actual like Manzai comedy scenes. I don't think I'd get it. But that might also be because, don't speak the language. I don't have. There's a certain level of comprehension that isn't there for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I at least can appreciate another unconventional manga that is teaching me about something I didn't know about before. Again, that's sort of the theme of this episode, is that these unconventional manga about things that I might not have heard of, or I have very little understanding of, and now I get it, kind of.
Again, like, props to the translator of this series as well,
Yeah,
because it falls into the same thing as Akane Banashi does. That like, it's a lot of translating jokes which may not exactly land for a Western audience, and obviously they've done really well with that. And I think, like you said as well, like, if I watched a Manzai performance, like, translated, obviously because I don't speak Japanese, like, if I were to watch it, I don't think I would get it. Like, there's still a lot for me to take in with that. But seeing Katsura Sunshine's Rakugo that he does, I kind of get a better understanding of what it's like, as obviously because he's doing Rakugo but in the like English language.
yeah.
So I kind of get it a little bit more. I think if I saw Manzai in English language, it'd probably be a very weird experience.
Like, I feel
But,
like the closest thing we have to Manzai in the West is like a comedy sketch show.
yes, it is exactly that. Yeah.
And like, it's when you watch those kind of shows, especially the ones we had back in the day, a lot of the jokes are misses. Like, it's not always funny. A lot of the sketches are kind of crap. And, it's very hit or miss. And I feel like that's the only way I truly understand Manzai, is like, it's one of those comedy duos from back in the day
Mhm.
that did a sketch show.
Yeah, it's the closest thing that we'll have there. Like, if I think it's very hard to put a comedy duo live on stage in the West.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, as you said, the closest thing would be via sketch shows. Like, I don't think I know any comedians. Like, I think,
I don't know a comedy duo in the UK.
I
Most
think,
comedians I
yeah.
know are like solo.
Even then, the ones I do know, like, comedians, are like sort of maybe like Flight of the Conchords, for example. But even then, they're
Yeah.
musical comedy. Like, it's very different from just normal stand up. Uh, God, it's a tough one. It's just, at the end of the day, it's different cultures.
I think that's also what is the barrier to entry. In all of this, I think the ultimate thing that stops Pepe and I from truly appreciating and understanding the jokes and what is the cultural differences
Yeah.
between like everyday life for a Japanese person and everyday life that we live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's like crossover in things, but like, the minutia and the fine details is what really differs, and that's probably why we'll never find it funny, because we haven't experienced that kind of life.
So true. Yeah. Exactly that. But yeah, but no, we could all learn stuff, I guess.
At the very
What
least,
is
you'll
it? Yeah.
learn more about the Japanese comedy world, like like sort of the ins and outs of stand-up comedy, how people gain their fame or reputation, that kind of stuff. So it's learning, isn't it? In a fun way, because you're reading manga.
The thing is, the thing that drives these two series for me right now is very much the story and the characters.
Yeah.
Like, if I was just reading it for the Rakugo or the Manzai, I probably would be a bit like, eh. But what I really do appreciate with these series is the storytelling that comes with it, and that's what really drives it home.
Yeah, they're both very well written. The characters are really well rounded. Like, and again, like we said, both art styles are just fantastic. So
Mhm.
they're great packages. It's it has to be said that Showa Shoten is like a monthly one. So go and read it. We do recommend it, but you will get caught up probably fairly quickly.
That's the one thing I have, because especially with those first 4 chapters that came out with Shoha, I was like, I think it got to a point where like it was left on the cliffhanger, and I was like, I really want to read the next chapter of this, but it's a month away. There's certain series that are like monthly where I'm like, oh okay, cool. Like I'll realize, oh, a new chapter's out. That's cool. I didn't realize that. But as if this one, I know for a fact that like, what is it? Every like third day of the month, like they release the new monthly manga, and I'm always like, yeah, I want to read next chapter of
See,
Showa.
that's a Showa Shoten was one of those where I hadn't started straight away. So when I
Hmm.
started reading it, I think there was 3 chapters out at that point. And
Yeah,
I appreciated that because I could go and just read 3 chapters straight away, you know what I mean? Like, and then I fell behind on it for quite a while again. So when I came back, there was like probably like another 4 chapters or something. I was like, wicked.
yeah,
There's
exactly.
plenty to read or something. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like, you know, when you're watching a TV series and
Yeah.
like it comes out weekly, and you drop off it for a couple weeks, and then you're like, oh crap, like I'll catch up on that now. And there's always like a good episode, and you're like, oh okay, I can watch the next episode straight away. It's
Yeah,
like,
like that's what happened with me and Showa is that like I read it and then I stopped just before they go to their first competition outside of the
oh
school.
yeah, yeah,
And then when I came back, like that whole section was done. And I was like, oh, cool.
yeah.
I got to read that whole thing. That was a nice little bundle.
Even with it being monthly, there's still like, what was it, 48 pages per chapter? So
Yeah,
you always
they're
get have a good amount of
lengthy.
content. Yeah, you'll have a good read of it as well. There's enough room to get a good story in with that. You never feel like you're shortchanged with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything else you got to say about these 2 series, Nathan?
Nothing really besides the usual. Here it comes. Go and read them. We highly recommend both of these series. We've had some series that were like, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Both of these, seriously though, I wholeheartedly recommend. They're really good, and I hope both of these continue for quite a while.
Yeah, same here. I really look forward to seeing what these series do in the future. But yeah, well, guys, thank you for listening. As always, remember to like, comment, subscribe. Find us on all podcast platforms. Links are in the description. And I guess we'll see you next time. Catch you later.
Bye.